Welcome to a video about the 10 Procol Harum tracks every music fan should hear. The focus is on a band really that offered so much more than just a whiter shade of pale, but this really has possibly been lost in time. Let's see if we can go some way to dispel this image, shall we? Now, before those opening chords to A Whiter Shade of Pale became so iconic, there was a band that blended rock, classical and soul in ways that really still sound fresh today. That band, Procol Harum. Formed in 1967 in the UK, their lineup featured Gary Brooker on vocals and piano, and Keith Reid as the lyricist. Ray Rover was on guitar, David Knights on bass guitar, Matthew Fisher on Hammond organ, and Bobby Harrison on drums, although he was replaced by session drummer Bill Iden when Whiter Shade of Pale was recorded, and he left soon afterwards. They combined Baroque influences, blues, and psychedelia into a sound that was really uniquely their own. Henry Scott Irving, author of Procol Harum, The Ghosts of a Whiter Shade of Pale, said of them, Procol Harum's 1967 milestone, A Whiter Shade of Pale, was seismic for its time. As much as the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper was in that same year, is one such tune. Now, with that classical Baroque sound, their succession of albums were filled with cryptic tales of sea journeys, death knells, and conquistadors. Although often remembered for their debut single, the catalogue spans 10 studio albums and countless live performances. Their music often really featured lush orchestration, poetic lyrics, and dynamic storytelling. Today I've got 10 tracks that capture both the hits and the hidden gems. So whether you're a first-time listener or a lifelong fan, there really is bound to be something in here for everyone to enjoy. Now we're going to start by getting that massive elephant in the room out of the way with that song. You know the one I mean. The one that made Procol Harum famous almost overnight and was butchered to death by my older brother back in the day, and what seemed to be the million times he played it on his keyboards as I was growing up. Now, the haunting organ line, the one inspired by Bach, has become one of the most recognisable riffs in rock history, with Keith Reid's lyrics reading really like a surreal poetic dream, filled with imagery and ambiguity. Add in Gary Brooker's soulful, emotive vocals, and you really end up with something that indeed had that timeless quality to it. Reid got the idea for the title when he overheard someone at a party saying to a woman, "You've turned a whiter shade of pale," and the phrase stuck in his mind. It was released in 1967, and he topped the charts worldwide and still appeared in films, commercials, and covers really decades later. The song captured the band's ability to merge classical sophistication with rock accessibility. Even today, it's often that first track people hear when discovering Procol Harum. But that was really only the start. There was so much more to this band than just that track, no matter how good it was. Turn the whiter shade of pale. And Conquistador is a perfect example of the heights of Procol Harum's ambition. This was a live version recorded with the Edmonton Symphony Orchestra, elevating a rock song into really a dramatic, almost cinematic performance. That orchestration built tension even before any of the vocals hit, creating a wonderful sense of grandeur. Brooker's voice was commanding and was perfectly matched those swelling strings and brass. The lyrics told a tale of conquest and adventure, giving the song a huge storytelling depth. Fans have often cited this live rendition really as the pinnacle of the band's career, showing that they really could think big, merging rock and classical in a way few bands dared at the time. Classic Rock Review, which praised Conquistador as a melody driven with choppy piano and swirling organ, resulting in an overall feeling of adventure.
Conquistador, your stallion stands in need of company.
Homburg was the follow-up single to that debut hit, and it continued to show off Procol Harum's signature style. But there were many other songs as well. This time, the track blended haunting melodies with Baroque-inspired organ riffs, giving it really a unique, sophisticated sound. Again, Breuker's vocals were both plaintive and commanding, perfectly suiting that mysterious mood of the song. The lyrics dealt with the themes of disillusionment and introspection, so common in Keith Reid's writing of the time. Now, the next of the Procol Harum songs that every music fan should hear was a track called A Salty Dog. Make no mistake, this was one of Procol Harum's most atmospheric tracks. Inspired by the sea, it told a narrative of sailors and longing, enhanced by the sweeping orchestration. These orchestral arrangements blended strings, brass and woodwinds, creating that cinematic feel that few rock bands attempted at the time, let alone achieved. The vocal delivery conveyed both melancholy and grandeur, perfectly matching Reid's poetic imagery once more. It was the title track of their 1969 album, which was widely regarded as a high point in their discography. Progrography said of it, "It's a poetry set to music. It flows from such a natural place that it's impossible to tell what is poetry and what is music." Subtle shifts in dynamics kept listeners engaged, really from start to finish. Even though it never matched the chart successes of A Whiter Shade of Pale, it remains a favourite amongst fans. Next, I'll take a look at Shine On Brightly, and this represented the band probably at their most adventurous.
It's shining brightly, quite insane.
This was an 8-minute psychedelic suite. It explored multiple musical themes and blending rock and classical and avant-garde elements all in one. The structure was complex, with shifting tempos, dynamic contrasts, and really some layered instrumentation. Reid's words were both surreal and abstract, reflecting the experimental spirit of the late 1960s. It was a perfect showcase of the band's progressive tendencies, moving beyond conventional pop or rock song structures. Shine On Brightly really showed that Procol Harum were not afraid to push those boundaries, and it remains an essential piece for understanding their artistic evolution. A great track. Quite rightly so, was one of the band's most tender ballads, with some soft instrumentation and a much more gentle vocal delivery, and this meant that it was able to create a reflective, intimate mood. Reid's lyrics focus on human emotions and introspection, and this allowed many listeners to connect on that personal level through their own experiences. The piano and subtle orchestral touches really added warmth without overwhelming the song. It's a real contrast to those more dramatic and psychedelic tracks perhaps we've discussed earlier, and showed incredible versatility. Fans have often cited it as a hidden gem in the Procol Harum catalogue, and it demonstrated that the band could be delicate as well as grandiose. Now, with the track Grand Hotel, this marked one of those songs really from a later period in the group's evolution. With a polished production and melodic sophistication, it reflected just how much this band had grown.
The nights we stay
The lyrics evoked a A vivid setting, drawing listeners into a world of elegance but mystery. With the instrumentation layered and precise, and keyboard, guitar and orchestral touches all blending in seamlessly. Brücker's vocals remained emotive, conveying both drama and that subtlety. It's definitely one of those tracks that really appeal to both casual listeners and long-time fans, make no mistake on this one. The album it came from was itself a commercial success, cementing their reputation really as one of Britain's most distinctive bands of the time. Now the next track every Procol Harum fan should hear is called Something Magic.
Something magic being born.
This was released in 1977, and it was a song that combined both smooth instrumentation with a lovely lyrical warmth and charm. Here, Brücker's vocals are really expressive but quite restrained, and this allowed the melody to take centre stage. The arrangement was layered but uncluttered, and it made it really immediately enjoyable for new listeners. And the band's ability to maintain artistry whilst embracing mainstream appeal. The words convey a sense of wonder and optimism, contrasting with some of the more usual darker material from Reed. Next, I have the track Simple Sister, and this adds a bluesy, energetic edge to the catalogue. It had a driving rhythm and soulful vocals, and showed the band's rock credentials this time around.
Simple sister, got who become.
There's that classic interplay between guitar, organ and piano, and that gives depth to the groove. The words are straightforward here, but delivered with character and emotion. Again, it's often highlighted as one of those underrated gems that balances sophistication with that raw energy. For the newcomers amongst you, it really showed that the band weren't just about orchestral epics or ballads, and overall this was really a refreshing interlude. Another track often overlooked is Whisky Train. It's an underappreciated gem that closes our list really on quite an upbeat note, and really is a must for every music fan, and one you really should hear. There's quite a catchy rhythm, there's a bluesy organ, and some driving guitar work. Brücker's vocal performance is lively and expressive here, and it all adds personality to the song. It tells its story with wit and flair, highlighting those storytelling abilities that we've seen yet again. Fans loved it for the infectious energy and underrated charm. And it's a reminder that Procol Harum could craft both epic ballads and rollicking rockers. It's one of those tracks that leaves you really listening and wanting to explore more of the band's eclectic catalogue. There really is something about these haunting Baroque masterpieces to the bluesy rockers, and Procol Harum's music really makes it timeless and diverse. That ability to merge rock, the classical influences, and the poetic lyrics really set them apart in the 1960s and beyond. Each track we've explored today really highlights a different facet of their creativity. For newcomers, it's a gateway into a rich and rewarding catalogue. For long-time fans, they recognise both the hits and the hidden gems. Their legacy is not just measured in chart success, but in the artistic ambition as well. Now, if you've enjoyed this journey, consider exploring the full albums, from Procol Harum to Something Magic. I'll put a purchasing link to each of the albums these tracks have come from in the description. And remember to share your favourite track in the comments. Final task is to subscribe to the channel for more classic rock explorations, and I hope that you have enjoyed this journey through some of this wonderful band's catalogue, and agree that these really are tracks every music fan should hear. Thank you for watching, and I'll leave you now with another video that I just know you're going to love. I'm going to see you over there.